Hello Anthem instructors, this is Kyle from McGraw-Hill, and now that we've talked about pairing, I'm going to give you a general overview of Connect and how you're going to use it at Anthem. So first of all, we want to point out that there are three tabs in the Connect system. You've got your Home tab, your Library tab, and your Reports tab. This is a consistent theme, so even though I'm using med-term for this demo, if you were teaching psychology or business or whatever the case may be, it's going to function, look, and feel the exact same way. So if you know one Connect, you kind of know them all. So we're going to spend most of our time on the home page, but first let's also talk about these two tabs. So we've got the Library tab, and the main thing that you're going to want to grab here are instructor resources. So if you click on this, it gives you point-and-click access to all the instructor resources for this textbook. So I see PowerPoints, test banks, and instructor's manual. These are, the resources are going to change based upon which title the Connect course goes with, but this is where they'll always be, and you don't have to go anywhere else or log out to get them. Next up, you've got your Reports tab, and you've got a lot of report information on this page. The main reports I think you should focus on this overview, so section performance, and I've just gone in as one student and answered a couple of these assignments so that I've got some content here. But this is going to be a bar graph that populates. It's going to give you average scores. It's going to give you what percentage of your students have completed the assignment and the average best attempts. So you get a quick heat check of how your class is doing when you look at this performance graph. Then as you scroll down, assignment results, this is actually what we're going to talk about in the next video, which exports to your Moodle gradebook. Student performance is a great report for running and finding out exactly how your students are performing on each assignment, and it gives you time on task and that sort of thing, so it's a really nice piece. I don't think that these next three types of reports are going to be that important to you, but we are going to talk about the at-risk student report. I think that that's a great report to run at the beginning and the end of every week because it's going to factor in a lot of components and give your students an online engagement number between 1 and 10. So if you're between 1 and 3, you're considered at risk. 4 and 7 is right in the middle, so you'll get color coded with a yellow color. And above 7 is in the green. That means you're good to go. If you run this report regularly, you're going to be able to see if you've got students that are disengaging so that you can grab them before you find out that they withdraw from the course. The final report that you'll be able to run is the adaptive assignment reports, and this touches on LearnSmart and SmartBook. We'll talk about that a little later on when we get into those programs. Okay, so let's go back to the home page, and before we start on the home page, I want to point out that given the way that Anthem and McGraw-Hill have worked together to develop these courses, you're not going to really need to use a lot of the administrative functionality because we've already built these courses and mapped them to your learning outcomes. So I think that the main thing we want to do here is show you how to facilitate, show you how to get into each of the assignments, and then show you how to manage dates. So first thing we'll touch on is the section overview. If ever you're teaching a new course and you want to see exactly what's in this course, you can click on section overview and it gives you a quick snapshot of what's going on in this class. So I've got 31 total assignments. If I click on this, I'll be able to go in and see the default policy settings. So do I allow for late work? How many attempts do I give the students on homework assignments versus test assignments, so on and so forth. This gives you the ebook information. If you click on the assignment categories, it'll let you know the breakdown of what types of assignments are in your class, and if you click on one side of the pie chart or the other, it'll actually give you specifics. So it says that 48.39% of these assignments are LearnSmart. Alright, so then you can also scroll over and see which of your assignments are active and inactive. Alright. And this is a blank area, but if you have a course that requires manual grading, that will populate right here, and this is because with Connect, one of the big benefits is that almost everything is automatically graded. If that's not the case, if you've got an essay question, for example, that requires you to go in and manually apply a grade, it's going to note that right here, and I'll return to section home and point out that the no assignments to grade piece will also turn red if you've got a manual assignment that you need to go in and grade. Okay, so by default, Connect's going to do all the grading, but if there's the off chance that you have an essay assignment or something that requires your grading, you'll see it in a couple different places, but this will turn red and notify you that you've got to go grade the assignment. You can get to the assignment from right here. Okay, so above the assignments that require manual grading, you've got your Messages tab. This is just going to be Connect specific messages. So if there's going to be downtime, if we're doing an outage in the middle of the night to try to upgrade the system, you'll be notified weeks in advance. By default, we're in Instructor view. If I click Student view, you'll be able to see exactly what your students will see, and I'll do this. You'll see that this area gets a lot cleaner because your students don't have any of this administrative functionality to make changes to the course. So let's click it. Alright, see, it's a lot cleaner. Your students have the full assignment list by default. If they just want to see the assignments that are coming next, they can click Next Assignment. If they'd like to see the calendar view, they can click Calendar view, and it'll show all their assignments in the calendar view. They can get to any of the assignments by clicking from the calendar. You want to go back to the Instructor view. This is your section information. If you want to go in and make any edits to your account, so you want to add a photo or an email address or office hours, you can simply click on this little widget and click Edit Instructor Info, and it'll take you right in. Okay. Alright, scrolling down, we've got the ebook. The ebook is embedded into your Connect course, so if you click on this, it's going to pull up, and it'll take you right to where you left off. If you ever want to go to the book contents, go to table of contents, this will take you to the main page where you can break the chapter apart and actually go in by clicking on any of the drop-down menus. Once you're in the book, if you click this blue arrow to the right, it's going to hop subunit to subunit, so I'll go to lesson 1.2. Alright, and then if I click one more time, it takes me to the end of the chapter. And this works in the reverse. If I want to go back to 1.2, I can click the back blue arrow. It'll take me backwards. You can also hop directly into a page, so if I click 22 and either enter or go, it'll drop me right into page 22. Okay, and the ebook works like a really long scrolling document. So it's broken out by subunits, but if I keep scrolling up, it's just going to keep going up and down until I get into the next subunit. You'll note that on the left-hand side, every time I get to a new page, it's noted here. And that's so that if you've got students with a physical textbook or they've got their ebook somewhere else, that they know exactly where they left off if they were reading while they're in Connect. Alright, so I am going to hop backwards into section 1.2, and I'm going to click on a portion of the text. So I'm going to select some text, and let's say this is really important to me. As a student or an instructor, I can come in and create a highlight. So I click the highlighter, I pick my color, I'll go with blue, and I click Add Highlight. Now my highlight's here, and I can do the same for notes. Click on the notepad, select a color, click Add Note, pull this over into the margin, type in remember to study, and I click Save. Alright, so I can save this over here. One thing that's really cool is that we built in this new feature for your students. It's going to be tough for them to remember every highlight and note that they took, so if they click on My Notebook, it's going to break everything down chapter by chapter so that the students can see all of their notes and their highlights. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the Reading tab and show you that we've also embedded all the videos into the reading. So if I click on Video, you scroll down, and chapter by chapter you're going to be able to see all the available videos that correlate to this reading text. And the same with the images. We've put high-res versions of the images here. They're point and click, so that if your students really want to come in and see bigger versions of the images, they've got point and click access to that. Final thing that I'll show you here is if a student wants to search the ebook, so let's put in the term heart, click Go, then this will bring up every portion of the text that brings up the heart, and you can click directly into those portions. Alright, so that's the ebook embedded within Connect. Click on Home. One other thing that we always point out is you can upload your syllabus here. You just click Upload Syllabus, you'll choose your file and send it up. Then your students will be able to view it from here. Okay, so let's move over into the assignments area. I really think that there's only one thing that you're going to need to focus on as an instructor here, and it's managing dates. So we'll talk about that at the end, but I do want to point out that when you come in, you'll see that I've got a folder system here. By default, the assignments would just be listed in a long row. I've decided, for the sake of this demo, to just add a level of organization. When your Anthem curriculum team decided to create your master course, they will have made a decision on whether or not they want to do folders or if all the assignments will be sitting here. But just keep in mind that's purely a design choice, so it's nothing that you'll need to worry about. But if I open up my week 1 folder listing, it shows all of my available assignments. So I'm going to point out that in order to view assignments, you'll just need to click on them. All right, and it's going to take you to the student activity, so it lets me know if students have started anything here, and it looks like I have 1 student submitted. If I go to preview, this is going to give you a quick preview of the assignment, okay, and it'll show you basically what your students will be seeing. If you go to policies, this will let you know the policies for the assignment, so it's going to let you know the rules on late submission, what types of references the students are allowed to use in the assignment. So anything that you need to know about the assignment will be listed here. And then message history. So if any students have inquiries about this assignment, they'll be listed here. From the drop-down menu, we've got a couple of other things. So edit assignment may or may not be available depending on the sharing privileges that Anthem decides upon. But one thing that I think is very important is manage extensions. If you've got a student that has already submitted this assignment and you need to manage an extension, then you simply go down, select a student, and then you'll add the extension date. So if I want to make it available whenever, I'll just leave that blank and I'll make it due on the 28th. Now this student has until the 28th. You can put time limits, you can put attempt limitations, whatever the case may be. But I think this is really important if you've got a student that has a crazy circumstance that you have to work around, that you know how to do this. I'll click save. Alright, so my extension's saved. One last thing, when I clicked on the assignment, by default it takes me to the student activity page. If you ever want to open this up and actually take the assignment as a student rather than just previewing it, you just click Student Assignment View. And this is going to treat you like a student. So now you're going to come in and you'll see everything just as a student would see the assignment. The one difference is you've got the option to close and return to Instructor View, which we'll do. And we'll click the tab to come back home. Okay, so let's focus on our last assignment type for the training today. If I open up week 1, you'll see a couple of these assignments have the big LS next to them, and that stands for Learn Smart. Learn Smart is going to be chapter by chapter assignments, so you see chapter 1 and chapter 2, and they're going to directly correlate with the textbook that you're using for Connect. So Learn Smart is a safe learning environment that allows students to focus on the core material for each chapter. By assessing how the student is learning, Learn Smart can adapt so that the student is exposed to material that is most impactful to them at that moment. This ensures a high-impact learning experience. So let's open up Learn Smart, and we'll have to click on Preview, and then we click on Preview Learn Smart Study Module as a student. Okay, and when we're brought into the environment, I want to point out that the first time that you land here, you may see that it says SmartBook in the upper left-hand corner, and that's all right, because Learn Smart and SmartBook are essentially the same program, and they're going to ask your students the same questions. The difference is SmartBook has an integrated ebook experience that the student is going to go through. So we'll walk through that after we cover Learn Smart. Okay, so at the bottom you'll see that I've got all my chapters listed, and if I scroll over a chapter, it's going to tell me which dates those assignments will be due. If I leave it on chapter 1, it tells me that it's due today. Alright, so on the upper left hand side I see that I've got chapter 1, tells me the name of the chapter and when I'm expected to learn. On the right hand side you'll see that it says that the deadline is today, so it gives me the due date, and it tells me my progress. So this is a good stopping point to discuss one last feature about Learn Smart. The way that the score is computed for Learn Smart is it's all about the assignment progress. So it really doesn't deduct anything for students who come in and miss a couple of questions, and that's why I call it a safe learning environment. It's all about persistence. So if I were to complete no more of this assignment before the due date, I would get a 57 because that's how much progress I've made on the assignment. As long as I put the time in and the effort in to complete all of the items that I have remaining for this assignment before the due date, I will get 100% on this. Okay, so let's click on Learn and open up the module. And we're now in the actual Learn Smart assignment. So you'll see in the upper left-hand side that I've got my progress meter, and it tells me that I have 11 items left. One thing I want to note about those 11 items: if a student misses the question, don't think that just because it says 11 items left that it's going to be the same 11 items. Depending on how the student is progressing throughout this module, it can continually adapt, and it can decide to include more basic material or to include harder material if the student shows that they're ready for that. It's also going to make sure that the student answers core content questions in a number of different ways. So given those couple of factors, it really makes it tough for the students to trick the system, and the question types change on a regular basis. So they may not see the same question twice in a given session. Okay, so if we move over, the next piece that we've got, you'll see that it says standings for all here, and it has some student names as well as anonymous and point values. So this is a gaming function that we built in solely for students who are competitive or that want to make their assignments fun. So the first time that a student logs into LearnSmart, they'll be asked to create an alias. It can just be a nickname, or they can click on anonymous. And after they do so and they go into their assignments, they're going to be awarded points. And we'll talk about how those are factored in just a moment. The points don't have any outcome on the final assignment. That's all derived from completing the items left. But they can get points. They can compete against the entire country if they leave standings for all highlighted. If they click again, they can compete just against students in their section. And if they decide they don't want to have the gaming function enabled, they can just click disabled, and they won't appear on anyone else's grid. They won't see any of their classmates or anybody else that's competing currently. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on standings for all so that we can see some points trickle in. So the next piece that we're going to talk about is that we stop and make the students say if they know the answer or not before they answer the question. This is twofold. The first reason that we do this is because this is what dictates the points in the upper right hand gaming function. I know it carries a weight of plus or minus 70. I think so is plus or minus 60. Unsure is plus or minus 50. And no idea is plus or minus 0. Now you'll note that not all of the scores end in 0, and that's because sometimes you'll have labeling or multiple right answer questions, and that's when the questions have slightly different point values. But as a general rule of thumbs, the values that I gave you are appropriate. The second reason that we have this confidence meter is because this meter, along with about 20 other items on the page, are used to dictate what the student sees next. So LearnSmart is always assessing what the student is doing, where their where their mouse is on the screen, how much time it's taking them to answer, and it uses all that information to appropriately gauge what the student should see next in order to have success. Okay? So I'll click I think so, and I'm going to go with this answer. I was wrong. So you'll see that the student gets instant feedback, and they click OK. They move to the next, and they can say I'm unsure, and it asks me to put in the answer. I'm going to guess micro. All right, and I'm correct. Now you'll note that the 11 items left goes to 10 items. Okay, so I'm one step closer to finishing my assignment. So just keep in mind these questions are all going to be focused on the most essential learning topics for the chapter. Okay, so that's LearnSmart. If at any time you'd like to go into SmartBook, you can just click on Go to SmartBook. It will ask you if you want to make this your default, and I'll say Not Now. So SmartBook is going to be asking me the same essential questions for each chapter. It just incorporates an interactive ebook. Okay, so you'll see that I'm in Chapter 1. I click Learn. Before I click Learn, actually, you'll see that I now have 61% progress, so I've made a little progress through my last LearnSmart answer. I click Learn. It's going to take me into the preview. The preview will allow the students to tab onto different sections of the subunits to see what they're about to learn. And then I go right into Read. Okay, so let's take this to the beginning of the chapter and show you the different options for navigating. First of all, you can make the size of the page much smaller by clicking the small a, much larger by clicking the big A. You can decide if you want the 1 or 2 page view. I'm going to go with the 1 page view. I'm going to make it a little bigger, and I'm going to use the blue arrow to go page to page. All right, when I get to this first page, you're going to note that it looks just like the regular ebook, except some of the areas are grayed out and some of the areas have highlights on them. So this is a very sophisticated and interactive ebook program that is going to highlight the areas that the student will be required to answer Learn Smart questions about. So you'll see that I've got blue highlights here, and if I toggle through a few screens, I'm sure that I'll be able to find some yellow highlights. There we go. So blue highlights are very important parts of the reading that the student has already successfully answered a Learn Smart question about, and yellow areas are very important, but the student is yet to answer a Learn Smart question correctly about those areas. Okay, so the student will read through, and actually on the right-hand side, they can go page to page, or they can click on this yellow arrow, which will take them yellow highlight to yellow highlight. So this will have them focus on the areas that they're going to need to master before completing the assignment. Okay, so I've got all these yellow highlights. If at any time the student wants to take a break from reading and answer questions, they can either click on practice or they can click on the brain. And you'll note that underneath the brain it shows the number 8. That means that I have read 8 topics that I'm going to need to answer Learn Smart questions about. So we don't ever force the student out of the reading, but we let them know that the questions are matriculating. Right, so I'll click on the brain, and this will take me right into Learn Smart. Okay, so it says the myocardium consists of heart, and I'm going to guess, I think I've seen this one before, muscles. Say I think so. All right, and close enough, so it allows me to go through. I click OK, and now I have 7 items left. But let's say the prefix that means below normal is blank. I don't know this answer. I'm allowed in SmartBook to click on Read About This. And this will allow me to have my Learn Smart question open on the left-hand side, and it takes me right into the portion of the text that covers this area. So the prefix that means below normal is, and if I look over here, it looks like the answer is hyper. Oh, I was wrong. Hypo. So I needed to read that a little more carefully. But when I click OK, it's going to take me right back in to the regular Learn Smart questions. So the two programs really work hand in hand, one with an interactive ebook experience and one with an adaptive study and practice method. All right, so let's click back to main menu, and you'll notice in the middle area there's an orange recharge button. Okay, so as I work through chapter 1 and chapter 2 and I master all the topics in these areas, I'm going to start to work my way through the book. And I'm more likely to forget some of the earlier mastered material, so we've built in a recharge function because it's statistically more likely that the students will be able to commit earlier mastered terms from the first few chapters to long-term memory if they recharge. So in this little box off to the right, they will see chapter 1 and chapter 2. Some of the earlier chapters will pop up. They're really short assignments. They're typically 1 to 3 questions long, and they're very focused on the core content for each of those sections, and this is what allows Learn Smart to force the student to commit some of the earlier mastered material into long-term memory. Okay, so we've covered SmartBook, we've covered Learn Smart, and now we're going to jump into the reporting that you have available to you. All right, so the students have access to all these reports. They'll be able to get their topic scores, which breaks down how they're doing topic by topic, current learning status, missed questions, most challenging learning objectives. They can also generate personalized practice quizzes that cover core content as well as material that's specific to how they performed. But I want to point out that as instructors, you can get access to a lot of information as well. So if we come down to the Reports tab and Learn Smart Assignments, you're going to see that we've got a vast array of reports that you can run to see how your students are studying. You get your student details. This will tell you the time that your students are spending and how they're faring as they work through the modules. Progress overview, module details, practice quizzes. This will let you know which of your students have done practice quizzes. Metacognitive skills. So this actually breaks down your class and lets you know if they are self-aware of how they're learning. So when they say I know it, are they actually getting the right answer, or are they oftentimes missing the questions? Then the two most important, I think, are most challenging learning objectives, which is going to tell you which learning objectives your students are struggling with the most. And then we've also got missed questions. If I click on missed questions, this is going to be the most frequently missed questions that your students had as they worked through a module. So let me click on Chapter 1. And this is a demo. So it's kind of funky looking, but it'll be a lot cleaner on your side when you run it. It's just going to have the 10 questions that your students missed the most. They won't have this line through them that you see. And you'll actually be able to click on Try Probe, and you can try the question at hand. So the really cool thing about this is if you make your assignments due before class, and then you want to get your face-to-face time with your students, you can just run this report in the front of the class, and you can actually talk through the most missed questions with your students. So it really kind of changes the way that you interact with your students in class. Okay, so those are the assignment types and the major functionality that you're going to need for Connect. Next up, we're going to discuss how you can actually take your grades from your Connect gradebook, which you can find on the Reports tab, and send them back to your Moodle gradebook.